April 14th, 1865, America was finally celebrating the end of the Civil War. President Abraham Lincoln believed the nightmare was over, but just hours later, a famous actor would walk into a theater carrying a pistol and change American history forever. Abraham Lincoln was born in a tiny log cabin in Kentucky in 1809. He had almost no formal education, no wealth, no powerful family, just determination. He taught himself law by reading books beside candlelight. Over time, he became known as Honest Abe, a man trusted by ordinary Americans. But America in the 1800s was deeply divided over one issue: slavery. Southern states depended on enslaved labor. Northern states increasingly opposed it. The country was breaking apart. In 1860, Lincoln became the 16th President of the United States. Within months, several Southern states seceded from the Union. The Civil War had begun. The Civil War became the deadliest conflict in American history. More than 600,000 Americans would die. Lincoln carried the weight of the entire nation on his shoulders. Many criticized him. Some thought he was too weak. Others thought he was too aggressive. But Lincoln believed the Union had to survive, no matter the cost. Then, in 1863, he made the most controversial decision of his presidency. He signed the Emancipation Proclamation. The order declared enslaved people in Confederate states to be free. It transformed the Civil War from a fight to preserve the Union into a fight for human freedom. For millions of enslaved African Americans, Lincoln became a symbol of hope. By April 1865, the Confederacy was collapsing. General Robert E. Lee surrendered to Union forces. Crowds filled the streets of Washington, D.C., celebrating the end of the war. Cheering crowds, bells ringing. For the first time in years, Lincoln could finally relax. Friends noticed something unusual. The exhausted president looked peaceful. On the morning of April 14th, Lincoln reportedly told his cabinet about a dream he had. Strange dream. About death inside the White House. At the same time, another man was furious. John Wilkes Booth was one of America's most famous actors, handsome, charismatic, popular. But Booth was also a Confederate sympathizer who hated Lincoln. He believed the South had been destroyed and blamed Lincoln for it. Originally, Booth planned to kidnap the president. But after the Confederacy surrendered, his plan became even darker: assassination. Booth and his conspirators planned to kill Lincoln, Vice President Andrew Johnson, and Secretary of State William Seward, all on the same night. That evening, President Lincoln and his wife Mary attended a comedy play at Ford's Theater in Washington. The audience erupted in applause when Lincoln entered the theater. Nobody knew death was already inside the building. Around 10:15 p.m., John Wilkes Booth quietly walked toward the president's private balcony. Booth knew the play perfectly. He waited for the loudest laugh in the show. Then, gunshot sound, silence. Booth fired a single bullet into the back of Lincoln's head. Chaos exploded inside the theater. Booth jumped onto the stage and reportedly shouted, "Sic semper tyrannis," thus always to tyrants. Then he escaped into the night. Doctors rushed to help Lincoln, but the wound was fatal. Soldiers carried the president across the street to a small boarding house. Through the night, cabinet members, generals, and Lincoln's family gathered beside his bed. At 7:22 a.m. on April 15th, 1865, Abraham Lincoln died. Long pause. Secretary of War Edwin Stanton looked at the fallen president and said, Now he belongs to the ages. America was horrified. Millions mourned Lincoln's death. Meanwhile, John Wilkes Booth became the most wanted man in the country. 12 days later, Union soldiers tracked Booth to a tobacco barn in Virginia. The barn was set on fire. Booth refused to surrender. Moments later, he was shot and killed. Abraham Lincoln served as president for only 4 years, but during that time, he preserved the United States through its darkest moment. He helped end slavery. He changed the meaning of freedom in America. More than 150 years later, Lincoln remains one of the most respected leaders in American history. A poor boy born in a log cabin became the man who changed a nation forever.